All right, you ready to talk lineups?
Let's talk lineups.
So, at first glance, like when you look at the WRC plus numbers from the entire season, Dodgers were at 113, Blue Jays were at 112. But then I think to myself, the Dodgers, they weren't really healthy in their lineup all year. There were a lot of lineups that they rolled out there where Andy Pajes was hitting fifth. There was Michael Conforto. There was Hyun-Sung Kim. There was Miguel Rojas, right? Mookie Betts dealt with the illness at the beginning of the season. The Dodgers have just had a lot of injuries throughout their lineup. So looking at the full season metrics, I don't think does a full service to the Dodgers lineup because it does look different now. And we know that they have a few players who just elevate their status in the postseason, most notably Kike Hernandez. And also Teoscar Hernandez was coming off a really rough regular season. And we've seen what he's been able to do in the playoffs. So I thought it'd be a fun exercise to go position by position and debate each player because it's super fun.
Yes. Well, before we do that, I do want to say that not all advantages are created equal, right? So
Correct.
you've got like Ohtani versus Springer. That difference between Ohtani and Springer is no disrespect to George Springer, who just hit one of the biggest home runs in the history of the Blue Jays franchise. It's gargantuan. But you've got like an Ernie Clement versus the Dodger, situation at second base. And, we're looking at that saying like, okay, you're kind of splitting hairs here. So I do want to get that out of the way first. And it's not just like, okay, if the Dodgers win 5 of the 9, then the Dodgers have the better lineup.
Correct. There is nuance. Absolutely.
There's nuance.
Aram, Springer versus Ohtani, I think, is a wildly fascinating debate from the designated hitter standpoint because Shohei Ohtani is arguably the best player of all time. But if you were to match up another DH against Ohtani, what's making you laugh so hard?
It's Ohtani versus George Springer. Like I understand what you're doing
that
here.
are going to help George Springer. George Springer won the World Series MVP against this Dodgers team. I know it was back in 2017. And Aram, on the previous episode, you were talking about how George Springer is playing the best season that maybe he's ever had when you combine the regular season and the postseason. The regular season numbers aren't that different. And George Springer is making an argument for one of the greatest postseason performers in Major League history. All I'm saying is, if you were to compare any DH around Major League Baseball to Shohei Ohtani, maybe outside Yordan Alvarez, wouldn't George Springer be number 3?
Right now, I mean, the postseason right now, the way it's going, sure. How do you value that, though, when Ohtani's going to give you 6 shutty, too, potentially?
And hit 3 nukes in the same game.
Don't worry. We'll talk starting pitching. Let's just talk DH right now with the stick.
I mean, with the way, Springer swung a better bat this postseason, as crazy as that is. And that definitely helps. That said, Ohtani in the World Series here, riding off of the last game where I think that really he woke up there, I think offensively. It's going to be interesting. And then do the Blue Jays have the left-handed bats? Like, I think the big reason why Ohtani has struggled in this postseason is that you have seen a concerted effort by every team to just go after him left on left. Like, you are mapping out your plans. You are planning around Shohei Ohtani and saying, we will make sure that we can deploy our left-handed pitching out of the bullpen whenever, opener, whatever it may be, for Ohtani. Can the Blue Jays do that as well with their rotation and with their bullpen? Not necessarily. So I think that's where, I am kind of expecting Ohtani to have a better series here than Springer, as good as Springer has been. I think this is where he's going to be like, oh my gosh, finally, I'm not just seeing left on left sliders every single at bat, and he's going to start to eat a little bit. But I don't think the gap from a production standpoint right now is that substantial. But, I think also with the knee, and I do just wonder, obviously it didn't affect him in the one game, but we'll see, can anything aggravate that, whatever, that just adds a little bit of concern for me. But I think Ohtani, you're taking that bat every day of the week comfortably.
I'm taking Ohtani as well. I want to put that out there. All I'm saying is I think the George Springer versus Ohtani comparison is fascinating. In terms of the matchups, Arm, that you talked about, that the Blue Jays lack that dominant lefty that can come in and get Ohtani, and of course Freddie Freeman as well. Do the Dodgers have a right-handed reliever that they can bring in to neutralize the bats of Springer and Vladdy and Kirk and even Ernie Clement? You could say Roki, but he's their closer. Is Blake Trinan going to be the guy? Is Emmett Sheehan going to be the guy?
It might just be Glass now, Snell.
Yeah.
That's the problem. No, I'm with you.
It could
Like,
be the
I'm
same
with you.
against
That's where they can outlast you and kind of do what they did in that game 7. Like, I think that is like the script of how they can potentially beat the Dodgers is wear them out, big swing, against a reliever. I think that's how you do it. But to your point, no. And I think that's like the big key here is like, can this lineup get the damn starting pitching out before the 7th inning?
Another fascinating matchup, Freddie Freeman against Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Because on the surface, clean sweep, it should be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Look at how well he's hit in the postseason. Going into this, he is the best hitter overall in the postseason. As long as he just elevates the baseball, it's going in the gaps or it's going over the fence. He's had some hilarious hits this postseason with like a negative 26-degree launch angle. Watch out, worms down below. But he's hitting the ball so damn hard every single at bat that some of those grounders are resulting in base hits because they're just going too damn fast for the defenders to be able to get to. But then I also think about Freddie Freeman, and I am still kicking myself for doubting Freddie.
You still have nightmares from last year.
Nightmares. I still haven't forgotten. I still have yet to forget. I think it's the worst take I've ever said in my entire life. Doubting Freddie Freeman coming off that ankle saying, this is an edge, guys. He's hurt. Guys, he's hurt. Oh, he won World Series MVP, and he hasn't done all that great so far in the postseason. And I think a lot of those things that Aram brought up for Shohei can be said about Freddie. Now, Freddie is, he can hit anyone, but I'm sure he would prefer to hit some righties. That's the thing about this Dodgers lineup. For their struggles against lefties, they destroy high-octane righties. And because it's right in the middle with guys like Shohei and guys like Freddie. And yes, Freddie is 35 years old, hasn't done that much in the postseason. If anyone is due, wouldn't it be Freddie Freeman? Now, with that said, I'm still taking Vladdy, but I don't think the edge is that big.
No. I'm curious what you think, Jack, but like it's got to be razor thin just because of what we saw last year. Just a reminder, and in the World Series, he hit 4 home runs in 5 games. Freeman did. That's a 1364 OPS in his career. In the postseason, he has an 871 OPS. In his career now in 2 World Series, he's hitting 310 with an 1171 OPS. And like I think we're going to see him, empty the tank now. Also, the best series that Freeman had was that NLCS, so kind of heading in the right direction there. But right now, you have an all-time postseason performance from Vladdy right now. And I'm going to go with the guy that's on an all-time heater in October.
Me too.
Before I give you my thoughts, how about this from Jordan Fowler? On my honeymoon in Italy, told the wife to hang on. Just baseball is live. Let's go, boys. That's
electric.
Thank you, Jordan Fowler. You should
see his
probably
profile picture too.
Yeah, it's great. I think that's at Lone
amazing.
Depot Park too.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's at Lone Depot. It's a Just Baseball hat at Lone Depot Park. But thank you, Jordan. You should probably go spend some time with the wife. But you know what? Appreciate you tuning in for like 5-10 minutes. And we'll tell you when it's time to go spend some time with your wife on your honeymoon. But I advantage Vladdy. I said a couple of weeks ago, I think right after the DS, I guess it was probably a week and a half ago. I said this has an opportunity to be an all-time month for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And we're talking about this October in 10 years, in 15 years. And I feel like that's where we're headed with Vladdy. He did nothing to kind of debunk that in the ALCS. Freddie Freeman can be awesome. He can perform at a World Series MVP standard. But what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is doing right now is like disincentivizing any opposing pitcher from throwing a strike to him. There were points in Game 5 and Game 6 and Game 7 where we were sitting here saying, why are you pitching to Vladdy? There's no point in pitching to him. Freddie was awesome in the last World Series. I don't think we got to that point of the conversation. Like, why are they pitching to Freddie Freeman? We're at that point with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So if he sees strikes, I have full confidence in him just a massacring a baseball. Freeman, I like to think that the likelihood is pretty high of him massacring a baseball, but it's not the level that I feel with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. right now with how hot he is. Aram, you know this, like Vladdy is one of the streakiest, shooting first baseman we've ever seen, or like hitters in baseball, where if he hits the first 3, look out, the next 5 are going in. That's how I feel with Vladdy right now.
Yeah, I think guy with that swing path, it's, your contact window to kind of maximize slug is a little bit smaller than some of the other hitters. But when you're in rhythm and you're finding that window pretty consistently, you're going to be one of the hottest hitters in baseball, and that's what we've seen. So right now he's in rhythm. It's like a shooter, right? Like he's in rhythm, and it just feels like no matter what, he's gonna sink it right now, contested, whatever it may be. And you just hope that he stays in rhythm through the World Series. But you know that this Dodgers pitching staff is going to be focused on him specifically, the same way that Ohtani was focused on. Now, to Peter's point, you don't really have a specific weapon to be able to go get a Vladdy, but they're going to be focused on him and say, this is not the guy that we're going to let beat us. The great part for the Blue Jays is that you also have a Springer who's on, a pretty incredible heater as well. So provide some protection. But, I think that's going to be the interesting part with Vladdy is, can he be patient? Can he be selective? And then, make sure he doesn't miss the one shot he gets, a game maybe to be able to hit a ball out there. But I have a feeling the Dodgers, especially with the extra time that they've had here, they're going to be game planning for just how can we make sure that somebody other than Vladdy beats us.
Some of these positions are pretty self-explanatory, but so I want to stay on Vladdy for just one more question, Arm, and I'm curious if you think that the Dodgers will be able to find a hole in his swing. Because the thing with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is, we've said it a million times, when he's elevating, he's impossible to beat. But there have been times throughout the regular season, and even in small spurts, they've been able to keep the ball on the ground. I think about Yamamoto when he ranks in the 91st percentile in ground ball rate. Even Blake Snell has done a pretty good job of keeping the ball on the ground, as has Ohtani. Like, they aren't ground ball specialists, but they also don't allow fly balls way more than any other pitcher. So I'm curious if you think that, because I think if the Dodgers can figure out a hole in Vladdy's swing, that will be the major key in this series. But from watching him and watching his swing, do you really think there is that hole?
Right now, no. But if they can find a way to get him to get the ball on the ground, it is a great point you bring up, because in the postseason so far, no pitching staff has a higher ground ball rate than the Dodgers. They have a 51.6% ground ball rate. But Vlad Guerrero, it's not a coincidence, as you mentioned, when he's elevating, he's succeeding. In his 11 postseason games, his ground ball rate's 39%. Just for reference, during the regular season this year, it was almost 47%. So he's clearly finding a comfort in elevating. What's funny is Vladdy's seen more sinkers than four-seamers this postseason, and he's just been able to elevate consistently. The interesting part, though, is he hasn't seen, these types of arms necessarily that the Dodgers are gonna unveil here. So it'll be fascinating. But I think he's clearly found something, right? I know it's a small sample, but we got 11 games here of him, hitting the ball in the air way more than his general average, and I think that's a great sign. But I think a lot of that's going to be the plate discipline side of things. And so far, he's been really selective and has really shrunk the zone. And I think that's been a big part of why he's been so successful.
So going through the next positions, second base, any big points that would make Andres Jimenez better than Tommy Edman?
I mean, Ernie Clement's existence?
Well, no, but we'll do position by position. So I put Ernie Clement at third base because I think Bo Bichette's going to play short.
Is Bo Bichette going to play in the field, or is he going to DH?
Is he going to DH and is Springer going to play the outfield?
We don't know. That hasn't been reported yet. So I was just going by standard position by position.
Okay.
Because Bo Bichette is the shortstop, but I agree.
Clement played second the entirety of the postseason, and if Bichette's DHing, then it becomes Clement versus Betts.
Clement has definitely played some third.
For the most part, he's been starting at second, but a couple games at third.
Yeah. So I was thinking if Bichette's back, Jimenez is back at second base, Clement's at third. But I agree. It could be Springer in right field, Bichette at DH. But then you're probably taking out Addison Barger's bat from the lineup. Is that what they want to do?
It's funny. This is almost a separate topic in itself. Is like, how do you go about this? Because Bichette's already going to be lesser of a defender, and then you have him having not played defense in a while now and on a bum knee. I think it would be kind of nuts to just throw him back out there at shortstop.
I agree.
I think what you would probably want to do, right, is you put him at DH Springer on a kind of a bum knee in the outfield, which is tough. Then Barger goes and moves to third base. Clement plays second, IKF to the bench.
So you're taking out, who are you taking out from the lineup? Sorry, that
IKF.
Was IKF a consistent starter?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so IKF goes to the bench. You have Springer playing a corner, Barger plays third, and then DH is Bichette.
So I can move those around now. Now we can discuss Tommy Edman versus Ernie Clement. Now I think it's a big edge.
Yeah.
Or not a big edge either way. I think that's a big conversation.
Yeah, 100%. Tommy Edman has been amazing in his Dodger career in the postseason. Obviously won the NLCS MVP last year. Edman is hitting well over 300 in his postseason career as a Dodger over the last 2 years. Ernie Clement is hitting just about 500 as a Blue Jay this postseason. So right now, I would give slight edge to Ernie Clement, but don't sleep on Edman. He's a lot better than I think people just flying in for the World Series would think Tommy Edman is.
So, Arm, I'm curious what you think to break the tie, just because I'm on the Tommy Edman side. Like, when I was writing up these things, it's like, do I overreact? Maybe not overreact, but do I react to an 11-game sample in the playoffs so far? Like, how much weight do I put into the fact that Ernie Clement is slugging over 600 with a strikeout rate below 5%, but knowing he put up a 98 WRC plus in the regular season? That's a much larger, more predictive sample than an 11-game sample. And we also have a large sample of Tommy Edman having success in the playoffs and Tommy Edman being the clearly better player over their careers. So I think it's do you just ride the hot hand with Ernie Clement because he's been objectively better than Tommy Edman, no doubt about it? Or do you side with experience, a guy who's won an MVP in an NLCS before, the switch hitter who also doesn't strike out? I'm leaning on experience with Edman, but that's why I wanted to throw it over to you for the tiebreaker, because I can be convinced. Like, I think it's just a very interesting conversation.
It's really tough because I think with Clement right now, it definitely just hot hand is very clear that he's swinging. He has a 61% swing rate in the postseason and a 45% chase rate. He's swinging at everything and he's hitting everything. But that also implies, I think, even more volatility. So yeah. That's where I get nervous. I think I'd side with the larger sample, but it's not like Tommy Edman.
He didn't have a good year this year.
Yeah, that's where he was not good. He was not good this year. So I'll lean Clement here because Edman had a pretty, I mean, he had arguably the worst. I know he was banged up, but I mean, from the sample size, like he started really well and then was really, really bad the rest of the way, like 81 WRC plus. Yeah, I get he's been there, done that, but I'll take the hotter hitter who had a better regular season, I think, in Clement.
So moving over to Max Muncy versus, are we going to say Addison Barger? I don't think Barger is going to play against Snell, though, as that lefty. So we might then see, at least in game one, but if we're talking about for the majority of this series, I think you're right, Arm. I think that's, and Jack, you said the same thing too. Barger playing third, Bichette DH, Jimenez short, Ernie at second, and Springer in right. I think if we're just stick with that in general, that's fair.
So I'm curious. Yeah, how do they stack the lineup against like a left-handed pitcher now with Bichette in there?
You go see Davis Schneider.
Yeah. Do we see a Davis Schneider start at second and then you slide over somebody, or Schneider in the outfield? Either way, I mean, it's Muncy, right? Like, been there, done that. But I think we could combine Barger and Schneider. I think it makes it fun and interesting, but it's still Muncy. That guy, he's dialed too. He's again just a guy that has the comfort that has been there and the power that he brings to the table. Like, he's going to have a big swing in this World Series.
Yeah.
And Max Muncy too. Remember when he put on glasses back on April 30th?
This is a good narrative. I love it because it's directly out of Kicking and Screaming, when the goalie in Kicking and Screaming puts on glasses and he turns into like the best goalie in that AYSO league.
It's not LASIK Jameis.
It's not
that.
LASIK Jameis, but this is Glasses Muncy is a different beast. There's slightly more validity to that than the CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams pep talk and Stroud immediately becoming ass.
I just wanted to highlight that point because Max Muncy, since he put on those glasses, is 8th in WRC plus in Major League Baseball. Like that's the type of hitter he's been since then. 821 OPS in his career in the postseason, 846 OPS this season. I think he's the most like underrated player in this entire series. I think that he is a good long shot World Series pick because he's going to face a lot of righties, a lot of guys who like splitters down where Muncy can golf one out. Like I think he's a good pick as a long shot World Series MVP or to lead this entire series in home runs. I think he's going to make a huge impact with the bat. And in the field, he's actually made some decent plays, even though I think we'd all consider him one of the weaker defenders on the Dodgers. But I'm just a huge Max Muncy fan. I think he's going to be awesome in this series.
Well, and another guy that you go bring in a lefty to go get him, right? I mean, 582 OPS this season against lefties, 910 against righties, and the same conversation it comes up here, but I think even actually times 2 because whatever lefty you flew Hardy, whatever you're going to do, you're using him probably for Ohtani, so you're going to have nothing left for Muncy. You know, Muncy's getting your righties.
Yep. It's funny because one of them is going to get righties, and with the way Dave Roberts constructs this lineup, there's going to be enough righties that have to see a Flu Hardy or a Brendan Little, and the plan is pretty simple. Like with Flu Hardy, it's he pieced up Ohtani during the regular season. This is obviously different. This is the World Series. I'm excited to see how Flu Hardy pitches, but with Little, the plan is so simple right now. Do not swing the baseball bat. Do not swing and take your base at first base. Like this guy cannot find the strike zone right now. He couldn't find it for a couple months in the regular season. He's going to try and curveball his way out of it. And if Ohtani sees him, Muncy won't. If Muncy sees Brendan Little, don't swing, buddy, and you'll be standing at first base. It's a really tough thing. We'll talk about it more when we get to the bullpen, but this is a distinct advantage for the Dodger lineup.
So far, DH goes to the Dodgers. First base goes to the Blue Jays. Second base, Edman versus Ernie. I think we picked Ernie.
Yeah.
And then at third base, back to the Dodgers. So right now it's 2-2. 2-2. What are we at left? Shortstop. Who did we say is going to play shortstop again for the
Jimenez probably Jimenez
against Mookie Betts?
Yeah, I'll take Mookie.
Yeah, even if you wanted to go Bichette, I mean Bichette on a bum knee, Bichette I'm gonna, even with the year that Bichette had, it was so great. Mookie, weird year with the illness to start it, whatever. I don't think it's much of a question.
Yeah, Mookie put up a 900 OPS in September and then has been awesome in the postseason. Like this is Mookie Betts again, and he's playing elite defense at short.
Yeah,
because he had a chance. I think he said it himself in somewhat of a way, like, hey, my regular season was cooked. Like there's no way that I was going to be able to turn around that whole season's numbers and everything, but postseason's a fresh start. And that's ultimately what they're playing for anyways. And you can really see it in Mookie's game where it's like, okay, turn the page, new opportunity, new season. And it's been that for Mookie. That's a Dodgers edge.
In left field, this one is also going to be fun. Kike Hernandez versus Nathan Lucas.
So
because if you look at the regular season numbers, Lucas is way better. But if you understand what Kike becomes in the postseason, you're taking Kike Hernandez. But Lucas has put up a 791 OPS in the postseason so far, but it's an 11-game sample.
The Lucas Davis Schneider platoon. I have no idea who's going to sit, but Schneider and Lucas have effectively been a platoon. So are you taking those two over Kike Hernandez?
I think I'm just taking Kike. I mean, he's got an 860 OPS in the postseason, and it feels like the further you go, the bigger the moment. He steps up even more.
Yeah, he decides to try.
Yeah, he's also a good defender in left field. I like Nathan Lucas. I think, like, going into next year, you'd rather have Nathan Lucas from game 1 to the end of October. But Kike, this is where he makes his money.
Fun nugget on Kike real quick. Next game he plays in will be his 86th as a Dodger in the postseason. That'll match Justin Turner's franchise record. So If Kike Hernandez plays 2 games in the World Series, he will effectively or officially play more games in a Dodger uniform in the playoffs than any other player in franchise history.
Incredible.
Yep. And I'm glad
And
he's
Aram loves
dialed
it.
in. Yeah, I'm glad he's dialed in for all those games. It could get exhausting. I mean, you got to take Kike. He's a different player. He decides to perform at a higher level every postseason. So this version of Kike is better. That said, Lucas has been awesome. I love what Davis brings off the bench or as like a short platoon because he's gonna grind out ABs and you can leave the yard. But Kike Hernandez is like the most clutch player ever in the postseason, and it's just insane. You have to take that guy. You have to.
Jack, you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, moving on to center field. I think now the pendulum swings back to Toronto. Andy Pages versus Dalton Varsho.
Yeah.
Varsho, he was hurt this year. He only played 71 games. But ever since he came back, he was a rocket. I mean, he's one of the best defensive players in baseball and was in the 94th percentile of outs above average in the outfield, put up a 123 WRC plus, performed in the playoffs. He's one of the Blue Jays' best players. And Andy Pages hits 9th for the Dodgers. So you're comparing one of the better players for the Blue Jays to the 9-hitter. You'd hope that the Blue Jays have the edge here. The thing is, what I keep thinking about too is the defense isn't much of a gap at all. And by the numbers, Pages was a better defender. Now, by outs above average, you're accumulating those, and he played more games.
Yeah.
But it should go to show that he was in the 97th percentile. He can really go get it in center field. But offensively, he was playing at an all-star level in the first half. Terrible in the second half. And in the postseason so far, he's had a few hits, but really hasn't made much of an impact for LA. Go ahead, Jack.
No, quick counter is Varsho made minimal impact in the ALCS. He was not good in the ALCS, but he was amazing in the DS. And you're nodding your head saying like, oh, he was okay?
No, I thought he had some big hits, but I agree with you. I'm more just like
5 for 28 with one extra base hit.
It's more my head is moving thinking. I'm not even agreeing or disagreeing. I'm just like trying to remember it.
Yes. So he had a 421 OPS in the CS across those 7 games. But he was amazing in the DS. In 4 games, he was 7 for 16 with 5 extra base hits. This guy hit 20 homers in 71 games.
Yeah.
I'm not overthinking this. Varsho, I know that Pages graded out as a very good defender. I know he's got one of the best arms in baseball. Varsho is one of the best center field defenders that we've got in the game. And oh, by the way, he hit 20 homers in 71 games and was amazing in the DS.
Yeah, finding that power stroke is crazy. And I think that this is another player here that really has figured out how to elevate at a ridiculously high clip. And I think that's what really stands out to me. I mean, you include the postseason now, what is it, 25 homers total in 92 games or something like that? Or that might be including some rehab games in there too. But I mean, just ridiculous stuff. I think also, yeah, you look at the data and like the cumulative numbers, and it's also just a testament to how good Pages has become in center field. Jack and I can call back to the call up where we did say that he would stick in center, but even that at one point was like I remember people being like, "Are you sure you think he can?"
Yeah, he's going to be a really good right fielder. It's like, can he be an okay center fielder?
Yeah,
you're like, no, he could be a decent one.
He's a pretty damn good center fielder.
Yeah.
Varsho is the kind of guy that can make that like 2% catch probability game saving grab. Not that Pages can't, but I could see. I feel like Varsho is going to make some sort of like pivotal catch.
Yeah.
It sucks that his arm is still kind of jacked up as he's come back. Like his arm strength is shot. Yeah. But so hopefully that doesn't come up. But no, I go Varsho with the year that he had, and I just think that the second half that Pages has struggled through, then carrying into the postseason the way that it has, I think it just makes Pages a little bit of just a question mark heading into this World Series.
And then right field, only 2 positions left. Right field, Teoscar for the Dodgers, Teoscar Hernandez, and then Springer, I guess is how we're doing it. So Shohei over Bichette, which is now a pretty sizable edge. Even though Bichette has been an incredible hitter this year, I think he would have led Major League Baseball in hits. He almost still did. Bobby Witt Jr. finished 3 ahead of him, but his season was cut short, and he's still dealing with that injury, but it's obviously going up against Ohtani. But now you have Springer against Teoscar, which is another fun conversation because Springer is this incredible postseason performer, had such a great year, has already won World Series MVP against the Dodgers, But Teoscar Hernandez is one of the better postseason hitters that we have in baseball. And taking into account his regular season numbers, it's kind of similar to Kike. It's like, who cares? Throw him out the window now. But you'd still give it to Springer. And I think comfortably?
Yes.
I would say pretty comfortably.
Yeah. Like, he's definitely better.
Comfortably.
Yes.
But this was going to be a fun World Series for Teoscar regardless of who he faced. Obviously, he spent the overwhelming majority of his career with Toronto, which is kind of fun. Like, this is not a revenge thing, but it's almost like a homecoming for Teoscar Hernandez. The Seattle one would have been interesting because clearly Teoscar Hernandez and Seattle don't get along very well.
Yeah.
That would have been fun, but Teoscar in Toronto is actually a pretty fun one too. But yeah, if Springer's playing right, distinct advantage for Toronto.
At the catching position, this is a battle of what I think to be 2 top 5 catchers in baseball.
Yeah.
But I think Will Smith is number 2 to Cal Raleigh. And I think Kirk is probably 4. Would you still take William Contreras over Alejandro Kirk? I think I would too. But then I start running out of names. I mean, of course, you could say, well, of Adley Rutschman. But I know, Jack, you're shaking your head. I'm feeling the same way. Like, it's Alejandro Kirk. And you go around baseball, I'm taking Kirk number 4. So it's not a big gap. And you could say, well, Kirk is the better defender than Will Smith is. And you'd be right. But the Dodgers pitchers clearly like pitching to Will Smith.
Yeah. And he's healthy.
Go ahead.
He's back healthy. I was going to say, like, that's the biggest thing. And you know, I think they were easing him back into action. And then you really saw him get back and comfortable in that Brewers series where he had 7 hits in those 4 games. Like, it feels like Smith's like all the way back, feeling himself, and he's the second best catcher in the game.
Yeah.
Can I call it a toss-up, or is that a cop-out?
I think that's a cop-out.
I think it's a cop-out, but I get where you're coming from because, again, it's a battle of the second best and 4th best catcher in our eyes, and one is a better defender, and one is healthy, and one is still technically
working back, but he looks
an injury.
good.
He looks good, but he hasn't hit for any power so far in the playoffs, which is his, kind of MO. So I get where you're coming from, but I agree with Arm. Total cop out.
Slight lean to Will Smith, then.
Okay. Cop out.
But
you have to have a heavy lean.
Respectfully, I want to say toss up.
Okay. So by going through that exercise, the edges for Toronto, it is not at DH, first base, but it's close. Second base, it's Ernie over Tommy Edman, so that would be number 2. And then center field and right field. So it would be 5-4.
So the Dodgers have the better lineup. 5-4, right? There's no nuance. That's what we talked about.
Well, here's the funny part about this too, is, like the edges, presumably like the disadvantage, quote unquote, would be like a Hall of Famer and Freddie Freeman. But the fascinating part is if you look at full season WRC plus, and I know, Peter, you mentioned like some variables as well, with the Dodgers lineup, but full season, I think the Dodgers were 113 and the Blue Jays were 112. Then you go to the second half, Dodgers were 109. Toronto was 123 in the WRC plus department. And then you go to the postseason and it's comfortably Blue Jays as well. With a 144, which is by far the best, of any team in the postseason. So cumulatively, like it's been a better offense in Toronto, but there's just those hitters that strike fear in you in the Dodgers lineup right now that, I think can make it tough in a 7-game set. So I'm just really fascinated to see how that all kind of manifests. And then the bench conversation is probably a fascinating one too, because I think the way that the Blue Jays can weaponize their bench is fascinating. Like, I love the way that they've been able to deploy Miles Straw and like late game defensive replacements, but also maybe to go get a lefty. We talked about Davis Schneider. And I don't know how the Dodgers really plan to use the bench much, if at all. I mean, we just see Justin Dean go out there for defense all the time.
Alex Call, big moment.
Yeah. Pesky. If you look at lineup depth, I feel like distinct advantage Toronto. When you look at 1 through 9 holistic approach, where are the tough outs? And then you look at the bench too, and their ability to mix and match, to Arm's point, like it's advantage Toronto in that front. The question is, how much better is the top heavy nature of the Dodger lineup?
Yeah.
So like that's kind of where we get washy
And it
because
sits on Vladdy's shoulders. It really does. I hate to
But
say
Right.
it.
Jack, real quick, when you mentioned depth, are you just talking about the bench? Because
I'm
I'm still taking the Dodgers 1 through 15 hitters over the Blue Jays 1 through 15.
yeah, because I think you're weighing the top 4 much higher than you're weighing the top 4
It
for
doesn't
Toronto,
matter. I'm
top
taking
5.
all those 15 hitters against those because you're
I
talking about David Schneider and Miles Straw. What about Alex Call? What about Hyesung Kim? Like those guys, there's not really much of a gap with those
Yeah.
two.
So actually, the argument to that is I feel like there were points through the Phillies series in particular in the DS where we were looking at the bottom third of the Dodger lineup and saying they got to flip it back to Ohtani. And with Toronto, it's not like we're really ever saying that. It's like kind of nice when Springer comes up, kind of nice when Vladdy comes up, but 1 through 9 was doing damage at certain points in the Blue Jay postseason run, where it feels like the Dodger postseason run. Now things were firing on all cylinders against Milwaukee. We're 2 weeks removed from the Phillies series in the DS, but during that Phillies series, it really felt like they needed to get the lineup back to the top, getting it back there or getting it to a Teoscar Hernandez. They went quiet for long periods of time in that DS series where the Blue Jays, it felt like when they were going right, they could pluck any of the 14, 15 hitters they have on the roster and they have a chance to succeed.
Agreed. But even with that, the Dodgers 1 and 4 against the Phillies. Like the Blue Jays, yes, it did feel like that, but
Yeah.
they still went to 7
Right.
against the Mariners.
And we talked about this when it was happening. This was a much closer series than a gentleman's sweep would indicate.
Yes.
And in a week, we said in a week and a half, that would just go away. And we would just say, oh, the Dodgers 1 and 4.
No, I agree. It was a close series, but like you said, there was struggling bats at the bottom of the lineup, and they were tight games, and the Dodgers still pulled it out, even though those guys at the bottom weren't really doing anything.
Because
I
they
think
got to the
that's
right guy
important.
at the right time. Like they
Because
got to
if they-
Teoscar at the right time.
Because if they do something, then we see a Brewers series or we see a Red series, and it's just way too much to handle.
Yeah.
So I think that's the important part is like, yes, the Blue Jays lineup from 1 to 15 has been more consistent overall, but the Dodgers have been winning when they haven't been consistent. And when they are consistent, there is literally no stopping them. I think that's the important thing to note.